Live from FinCon Studios in Frisco, Texas, this is Masters of Money. Episode 5, How to Track Your Expenses with Zina Kumok.
I was a senior in college, and I remember I set a budget in Mint, I think for $80 for eating out, and I thought that's reasonable. And I remember I hit that limit about a week or 2 weeks into the month, and I called my mom and said, I just don't get it, like, how could this have happened? And I did the math, and sure enough, it was $85. It just hit me. I mean, I'm not a dumb person, but I didn't really realize like 16 plus 15 plus 20, that adds up really quickly.
My name is Philip Taylor, but you can call me PT. I started a personal finance website back in 2007 and have been writing, talking, and learning about money ever since. My goal with this show is to help you improve your financial life by bringing you deep, revealing conversations around the taboo topic of money with my money nerd friends who aren't afraid to share. All right, let's meet today's master of money. Zina Kumok is a freelance writer specializing in personal finance. She's one of the best. She's done some writing for me, and I think she's been nominated for a Plutus Award. She writes a blog about how she paid off her student loans, $28,000 worth in 3 years as a journalist. She shared it all at debtfreeafter3.com. Zina lives in Denver with her husband, who is a partner in her freelancing business. Zina has seemingly made all the right financial moves in a short period of time. I find myself saying, I wish I'd done that when I was in your age, a lot during this interview. Listen on to find out what all she did and how she accomplished it. Stick around after the interview for my biggest takeaways. Let's dig in. Let's meet today's master of money. Zina, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, PT.
It's a pleasure to always get to hang out with you. We always end up at a few conferences together every year, certainly at FinCon. But it's good to be talking face-to-face and getting to know you, your financial background a little more in detail.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to share my story.
First question is, what's the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your financial success so far?
I think the biggest impact has been tracking my expenses, because I grew up having financial knowledge. My parents always talked about that, but it wasn't until I actually started tracking what I was spending and what I was spending it on that I realized where I had to make changes in my life.
So how do you do that? How do you track it?
At first I used Mint. I still use it now, and I've always used kind of a custom spreadsheet that I created for myself in Excel, because I like Mint, but I don't think it has all the features and capabilities that I want. So having the two combined really lets me see where my finances are going.
And so how often do you do this tracking, or would you do this tracking?
I do it about once a month now. I think Mint sends updates still if I go over budget, but about once a month I go in and settle all the accounts and just see where I'm at. But
at some point you were doing it a little more regularly?
I had a point where when I was trying to pay off my debt, where I think it was daily, I would check it because I was just really anxious about money at that time.
Yeah, so you're hyper-focused on it. That makes sense. And so you would just go to Mint every day or go to the spreadsheet every day and enter the new items or categorize the new items?
Yeah, I would use the Mint app on my Android, and I think the app was my favorite just because it was on my phone and I could check it, and it just made it a lot easier.
Yeah. And so everything, literally, like from rent down to what the coffee you bought that day.
Oh, I was obsessed with every dollar. I remember there was one point where I went to Redbox and I was debating, like, is it worth it? It's $1. It got to that point where, because I had wasted so much money, I was now taking that energy and really analyzing, is this expense worth it?
Right. So, yeah, that makes sense, because tracking is somewhat of a backwards looking approach to your money, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's good for bringing awareness. That's obviously why you were doing it. But talk about how maybe it was affecting what you were doing forward-wise with your money.
What I didn't realize until I started tracking was how much I had been spending. And it really made me more aware of, you have this tendency and you have this habit and you really, really need to work on it. And I didn't really realize, okay, you know what? I do like to go shopping and I like to go to Target, and it really didn't hit me because I didn't want to think of myself as that kind of person. I think we all have an image of ourselves in our head that's much rosier than what is in fact real. And because I knew about personal finance, I always thought of myself that way. And I always thought of myself as, interested in that and being an expert. So definitely tracking helped me see, you know what? I'm that person spending $200 on eating out. And it really helped me see that if I wanted to achieve my goals, I had to make some changes.
What do you think prevents other people from, because we hear a lot, certainly about the idea of tracking daily and becoming more aware. What do you think prevents people from doing that?
I think a lot of people have an idea of what they're spending their money on. And I've done budgets for a few people, and I've asked them before and after, how much do you think you're spending on this? And then when they go back and see, the numbers are quite different, and it's usually not in their favor. And I think it's just a big wake-up call. I think it's, if you start counting calories, you probably realize you're eating more than you think. Everyone forgets about the little bits of chocolate that they're eating, and they just think of the big stuff. And I think it's easy to let things fall through the cracks.
So how did you get daily prompt? Did Mint send you daily prompts to, hey, check this out? Or how was it top of mind, I guess, every day for you?
Honestly, it was just something that became part of my conscious mind. Like every time I bought something I think I would check the app a lot of times, like just to see, because it gives you like a progress bar and to see how much of your budget you currently spent. And I would just see, okay, well, I'm already at this level, so I can't go out and do this. Or, okay, I've still got some money left, so this is fine.
Right. So tracking intensely for a while, but now you've kind of pared it back to a month. So talk to people through that process, like how long it took before you started maybe doing it less, or you got comfortable, paying less attention to it, I guess.
So I think what happened with me is that when I was trying to pay off my student loans, and I was only earning $28,000 at the start and about $31,000 when I finally paid them off. And when you aren't earning a high salary, every dollar really matters even more. I think the less you earn, the more diligent you have to be. Not that high earners also don't have to be careful, but they have more leeway. So it started out being really intense because I was so focused on paying off my student loans within 3 years. And I realized that because I didn't have a high salary, I really needed to see where every dollar was going and to allocate it wisely. And now that I don't have such a strict goal and I'm not living on a dollar by dollar basis, I can afford to be a little more relaxed when it comes to that.
Right. And I'm assuming that's because you're also taking care of other parts of your finances as well, and you're comfortable with those as well, like you're saving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take us back to that moment. You sort of alluded to it, but the moment you realized, you needed to become a master of your money and improve your financial life. I know you said you sort of grew up in a healthy financial household, but there was a sort of a turning point for you where you wanted to pay more attention to it. So talk about that moment.
I remember it quite clearly. I had set up a budget in Mint, and I was a senior in college. So I was thinking about graduation, what I was going to be earning, and realizing I need to start saving. And I remember I set a budget, I think for $80 for eating out. And I thought, that's once a week. That's reasonable. And I remember I hit that limit about a week or 2 weeks into the month. And I called my mom. I said, I just don't get it. Like, how could this have happened so early? And I did the math, and sure enough, it was $80 or $85. And it just hit me. I mean, I'm not a dumb person, but I didn't really realize 16 plus 15 plus 20, that adds up really quickly. And I wasn't eating out once a week. I was eating out a few times a week. That just made such an impact on me. I mean, I still remember it 5 years later. Because again, I thought I was doing a good job and I wasn't.
Right. So this was senior year of college, and you had the awareness, maybe from prompting by parents or friends or something, to actually start trying to budget before you left school. I think that's impressive.
I think second semester senior year, it really hit me you're going to graduate. You're not going to make a lot of money because you're going to be a journalist if you find a job.
Ah, okay.
And you're going to have these student loans to pay back, and you have $100 in your savings account. So you should start working on this.
Gotcha. So you knew your career path, you were comfortable with it, but you also knew that it came with some financial requirements, I guess.
Yeah.
And so you graduated with student loan debt?
Yeah, $28,000.
$28,000. So part of this, the turnaround mission here, or the takeoff mission, really, it was the first time you were becoming financially, sounds like, independent and handling your stuff. So was it that moment you also decided to kind of take action on the debt as soon as you got out of school, or were you already starting to make payments before you left school?
No, I used the 6-month grace period that the federal student loan providers give you. I used all that up. It was actually really fortunate timing because I got my job, I want to say 2 weeks before the payments kicked in.
Okay.
So I was working at Ann Taylor, living at home, applying for jobs, and I got one. And then the next month, my first student loan payment hit. So I don't know if I even knew how much my payment would be until I got it.
Okay, so you get the job, and your idea then is you had this 6-month grace period from the student loans, and then your idea is to tackle that student loan debt.
Yeah.
And what made you say, man, I want to get this done sooner rather than later? Because I took 10 years to pay off my student loans, and it was about the same amount. I was perfectly happy with that. What made you want to be so aggressive about it?
So growing up, one of the things that my parents talked freely about was the credit card debt they had accumulated. And it was through frivolous spending and, just going beyond their means and not really realizing interest rates and, how long it would take to pay off. And I saw when they did decide to start paying back that credit card debt, I saw what sacrifices they made to get there and the things that they put off. And I think seeing how long it affected them, it definitely made me convinced never to get into credit card debt. And I just didn't like the idea of being in debt. It weighed on me so much. It just felt like a huge load on my shoulders. And I never had debt before the student loans. So when I got that first payment, I thought, I'm going to have to do this for 10 years. This sucks. And I felt so discouraged because I was like, I'm not bringing home that much. These loans, the minimum payment was about 20% of my take-home pay. So I just decided I'm going to do whatever it takes. Within reason, I didn't start dumpster diving, but that's when it hit me like, okay, I got to get serious. I got to get really real about what's going on.
Right. And so tracking the money, making sure you're not spending too much. Did extra income come into play for you, or were you just content with the salary and just trying to do it with that?
Yeah. One of the things I didn't do is get a second job per se. I did freelance a little bit, not regularly and definitely not super consistently. But when I did, I would put that money toward my loans. And I found out, I remember I decided, let's just put an extra $10. And I remember calling Nelnet, and they said that an extra $10 a month would shave off 1 year off my 10-year term. And I thought, just $10. And 9 years to 10 years, it's still like a long time, but it felt like, okay, that's what $10 can do. What can 20 or $50 do? And obviously you have to put in exponentially more to get the same result. So anytime I had a windfall, tax return, birthday money, put that toward my loans. Anytime my expenses changed, if my car insurance went down, put that difference toward my loans. Eventually, when I got a different job and got paid a little bit more, put that difference toward my loans. Or if I moved to a cheaper place, I just focused on anytime I could decrease expenses and put that difference, I would just lump it all toward my student loan payments.
Awesome. That's great advice. Great nuggets there. So that's obviously been a huge financial goal achieved in your life because it took you 2 years, right?
3 years.
3 years, and you knocked it out.
Yeah.
What did that feel like to finally get that paid off?
It was something I'd been focusing for so long that it didn't really hit me, I think, until months later. Like, whoa, I don't have any debt. Because for me, I was just in this I was so wrapped up in it that I kind of forgot my situation was unique and that so many other people were still struggling with it. I mean, I still have friends. I'm 28. I still have friends who are paying off student loans. You know, they're about 5 years into their payments. And it's weird to think, oh, I've been debt-free for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we have so many more options, and like I don't have to feel guilty when I spend money on myself or buy something fun or go on vacation, because I know that my responsibilities are taken care of.
Right. Yeah. So talk about some of the things you've been able to do with that payment now. What was the max you were kind of chunking at it on a regular basis?
So my minimum payment was $350. The last year I was making payments, I was putting about $900 a month.
Wow. $900 a month.
Yeah.
And so that freed up a lot of money then once you got that paid off.
Yeah.
What did you do with it?
The first thing I did was change my retirement contributions to 10%. I'd been putting in about 6%. So that was my first goal, because I knew then that was my next priority.
Mm-hmm.
I also started saving for an emergency fund because I knew that my husband and I wanted to quit our jobs and move to Colorado and be self-employed. So I wanted to make sure we had 6 months of expenses saved up before we did that.
Mm-hmm. When did you get married during this whole process?
I got married about 6 months after I paid off my loans.
Okay. Wow. Lucky guy.
That was another goal. I didn't want to put anyone else through the process of paying off debt.
Look, setting aside money for the future doesn't come naturally for many of us. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the median 50th percentile family has just $5,000 saved. I struggled to save money in my 20s, not because I wasn't making enough, but because I wasn't automating my savings. Automation has been a total game changer for me. On a tactical level, nothing's been more powerful in my attempt to get ahead in my financial life than automatic savings contributions. Technology just keeps on making this easier and easier. Back when I got started, all we had was online savings accounts. I still had to set up the automatic transfers and make adjustments as I went along. Nowadays, there are several automatic savings apps specifically designed to help you save more of your money over time. Over the last few months, we've been compiling a list of these apps over at my website, ptmoney.com. All of these apps are free and have the power to create real change, literally, for you. Visit ptmoney.com/autosave to learn more and get started in seconds. Back to the 401k. So you were saving 6% through your company's 401k with a journalism job.
So what's funny is I started an IRA in college. And when I got my first job, I wasn't eligible yet for their retirement plan. And once I became eligible, I was already looking for a job. And a couple months later, I quit. So I didn't even start one there. And then I think I had to wait another year before I became eligible at my new job. And as soon as I became eligible, I started contributing enough to get the match while still paying off my loans.
And that was the 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you couldn't give up that free money, right?
I mean, it's not a lot. I think it was only like a couple $1,000, but hey, it's going to turn into a lot of money in 30 years.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's wise. With people who quickly pay off debt, I always wonder sort of what they're doing, what they're not doing, I guess, the opportunity cost of doing that. And so it sounds like you were doing both still, but just avoiding things like excessive spending and travel and sort of excessive lifestyle growth post-college. Because when I left college, I knew I was getting this big fancy job, and it sort of gave me permission then to continue spending more, right? And so you had the opposite mindset where you really seem to kind of stay at an even level and be responsible. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I think I went from in college, I felt like I had plenty of money, and so I spent frivolously in that. Then I went to having what felt like no money.
Yeah. So that's obviously been a huge financial goal in your life, to knock out that debt in the 3 years. Have there been any other big financial goals in your life that you've achieved? How'd you do it?
The 6-month emergency fund, I think, was the biggest one after that. I mean, a lot of that just came from really focusing on it and just taking the money that I had been putting toward my loans toward the emergency fund. And then some of that was, we got wedding gifts and just put the cash that we got toward that. That was a lot of it. And again, just tax returns. When I left my job, I think I got like some unpaid vacation time cashed out.
Cool. So when you say 6-month emergency fund, explain that to people.
So I decided that we should have 6 months of expenses saved up because freelancing is not, nothing's guaranteed. You never know how the month is going to go. So I wanted to make sure that we could afford the basics: rent, utilities, groceries, not entertainment, but what we needed to live on.
Sure.
And that's been really helpful.
Approximately how much of what were you spending a month back then, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I saved up $15,000.
Okay.
So about $3,500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little less than that. Yeah. The emergency fund you mentioned sort of allowed you as a freelancer at that point. So this was post-marriage and then moving to Colorado, and then now we have this emergency fund, which allowed us to take this leap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. Congrats on that one.
Thank you.
So what about any other financial tools that you've used along the way or that you're using now to sort of help you hit your goals?
Yeah, I still use Mint. I really like it just because it consolidates all your accounts in one place, which is really helpful. I still use my trusty spreadsheet.
Do you share that publicly anywhere?
Yeah, if you go to my site, you can get it for free through email. So
let people know how to get there.
It's debtfreeafter3.com/resources.
Cool. And so any other tools, the sheet, the Mint, any other financial tools you use? Who do you bank with?
I use PNC just because it's who I had when I started, and they don't charge a monthly fee, and then they refund some ATM fees, which is awesome, even though they're not out here. I use Vanguard for retirement. I really like their low fees, and I use an index fund with them because I'm boring and I don't do individual stocks. I just like to stick to my trusty S&P 500 index fund.
Likewise, not going to get any complaints here. So Vanguard for retirement, and so you've moved everything that was in the 401k with the company over to that, to a IRA there?
Yeah.
Cool. PNC for banking, and that's where you held the emergency fund?
Mm-hmm. I just kept it in my checking because I just wanted easy access to it.
Emergency fund in your checking?
Yeah, I've had to draw on it a little bit.
So not even a separate account?
No, I've thought about it. I try to simplify my finances just because I really care about them, but I just want to make it as easy as possible.
Okay. And for whatever reason, you're not tempted by it being in there. And so you don't think a barrier to that money?
I'm sure some people would, but for me, because then in my spreadsheet, it's allocated as this part of your checking is the emergency fund. So,
okay. Another reason to go check out the spreadsheet to see how you break that out. That's good. So, yeah, so you have buckets in your mind. It's in a separate account in your mind.
Yes, definitely.
But banking-wise, it actually sits in the same place. I get it.
And I will say I have used a Capital One 360 account for that reason because it's really easy to create separate, almost like sub-accounts. And so I have done that a little bit when it comes to quarterly taxes for my freelance business. So I also recommend them.
Okay. So you do have them, but just on the business side.
Yeah.
Personally, keep it nice and clean with PNC.
Yeah.
But you don't earn any interest with that, You got $15,000. Shouldn't that be earning interest? Shouldn't that be invested somewhere?
I definitely don't want to invest it because I want to keep it liquid. I think if I had a regular job, I'd consider it. But freelance to me is so in between. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That I just like to have easy access. And it's worth the cost of maybe not getting as much interest by having just knowing it's going to be right there.
Yeah. I think that's wise. On the actual coming up with the 6 months worth, how long did it take you to save up that amount?
I guess up until we moved. So it was about 10 months, I want to say.
Nice.
And I wasn't starting with nothing. Like I already had an emergency fund of some sort. My husband already had some savings. So we didn't try to save because we already had some savings in the bank.
Yep. So if your account says $15,050 in my checking, you know that you just have $50 in your checking.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've been able to not dip below that point unless a true emergency comes along, right?
We had a couple slow months in the summer when we used it, and now we're filling it back up. Yeah.
So there you go. So you actually put it into play. So it's worked.
Yeah.
Cool. What about now? You have any goals for the future? How are you planning on achieving those?
Yeah, we're actually saving up to buy a rental property, and we want to create some passive income with that. So we haven't started looking for one yet. We're still saving for the down payment, but that's probably our biggest financial goal right now.
How much is the down payment going to be, percentage-wise or dollar-wise?
I'd like to do at least 10. A 20 would be ideal, but if a great opportunity comes along and the math makes sense, I haven't done as much research on it as I should. It's just kind of an idea we have because I know it's something that a lot of people have used successfully to retire early and just create a passive stream of income.
Sure, diversify because you've got obviously the retirement investing going.
Yeah.
Right. You still got the Vanguard funds working and regular contributions to that.
Yes.
And so this is a way to, since you sounds like you still rent.
Yeah.
And is renting going to be something you just continue to do? You're happy being a renter?
Right now we're happy renting because we don't see ourselves here for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to buy a house just to buy one and then lose money on closing costs eventually. So that's what makes sense.
And you're still in Denver?
Yes.
So would the rental property be there? Are you looking elsewhere?
We're actually looking for the property to be in Indianapolis, where we used to live, because they have a really good rental market right now.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And we have contacts there. We know the neighborhoods, and that's what seems to make more sense for us.
Very cool. So that's a huge lofty goal. So getting that 10% ready and then more or less doing your research as well, getting comfortable with the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very good. And on the retirement side, any big goals there?
You know, we save about like 15%. And because my husband and I are both self-employed and freelance, we generally feel like we like what we do and our lives are pretty great right now. I don't see retirement in the traditional sense of how my parents might see it, that when they turn 60, they can retire. And I just see it as like, it'll be nice being financially independent and maybe working less and just having more freedom to travel and do the things we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Do you guys share your financial situation with each other? Is it sort of in two silos or is it all together? How does it work?
Yeah, everything is mixed because I think if you're married and you're sharing everything else, I think you almost have to share your money. I just can't see a way where one person is retired and the other person is like still saving for it. That just doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, one question I had, I forgot earlier. I want to run back to you really quick. It sounds like you were maybe a little bit of Dave Ramsey ideas. Were you? Okay. So you had some of that background?
Yeah, I read a lot of Dave Ramsey growing up. That's what my parents had. Okay. And they kind of used his system. They modified it a bit. I believe that credit cards are great for travel, all that stuff. So I know he says to avoid them, but I think if you're not tempted by them, they're really awesome to use. And it's one of the reasons I can travel so much.
Doing some travel hacking?
Yeah.
Points and stuff. So it leads me to another question. Then you do all your spending on credit cards then?
Oh,
and just make sure all spending on credit cards, but how do you make sure that you don't go above what's in your checking account, above the emergency fund?
I think it's just about, I've created our budget so that it's very realistic. And every few months, I just go back and make sure the limits I've set that they're still, the average of what we've been spending. Mm-hmm. So it's really reflective of where our habits are right now. So I think that's probably why we don't have an issue.
I get that. The years of tracking, paying close attention to it, getting aware of it, getting ahead of it, it makes sense. Gets you more comfortable, slowly more comfortable with being a little looser with the controls.
Yeah.
I get it. So back to your husband. When you got married, were you both sort of in the same trajectory from a financial perspective? You were debt free.
Yeah, he didn't have any student loans to begin with, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you manage them together, the finances together, and it sounds like you got similar goals. What does he do as a career, if you don't mind sharing?
He works with me. We actually work together.
Oh, and then, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then he's a musician on the side.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So he's able to help you out with the freelancing business?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been good. Last question I have, Zina, is looking back over this past, what has it been, 6 years, 7, 8?
5.
5 years? Through the tough times, maybe just a few tough times, facing down that debt, challenges of wanting to go solo out on your own. Tell me how you feel about it now, looking back.
I think I was a little too hard on myself back then. I'm definitely anxious and worried if I went over budget and I look back and I think, would it have really mattered if I spent a little bit more? One thing I think I definitely cut back on spending on others while I was paying off debt. I kind of wish I had been more generous during that time because I think that's just really important. And now I really like being able to do that for other people. It's really fulfilling. And I know studies say that we feel happier when we spend on others. So that's what I would tell myself going back. But definitely the sacrifices that I made, they're worth it. And I'm not sure that I'd be in the position I am now if I hadn't done that.
Yeah. And it's a good place to be. Like you said, you can do more giving now than ever before.
Yeah. And it's just now we can afford to be more relaxed about it, which is really great.
Well, awesome. Zina, thanks for being on with me. This has been eye-opening and I'm sure super helpful for a lot of people. Where can folks find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so they can check out my blog, debtfreeafter3.com, and I will hopefully have a podcast launching on there soon. Twitter at Zina Kumok, Facebook page debtfreeafter3. You could find me on Pinterest at Zina Kumok, ZinaKumok, and feel free to check me out.
I hope you enjoyed that. A big thank you to Zina for giving us the gold today. The exhaustive show notes, including links to everything we talked about, can be found at ptmoney.com/Zina, Z-I-N-A. My 3 favorite takeaways from this interview. Number 1, take all your extra income, that unexpected income, and use it to advance your financial goals. It might be easy to, grab that money and use it for spending, but smartest thing to do, like Zina did, was certainly to use those funds to advance your financial future. You want to make sure your budget is based on income that's known to you, income that you expect to come in, so that you're not using these windfalls to kind of catch up, right? Your budget should be based on what you're spending, should be based on what your actual known income should be. So when you get these extra bonuses, they can be used to kind of quickly fast track or further advance your financial goals. Number 2, I like that she snowballed from debt to savings. And so we've all heard of the debt snowball. Dave Ramsey helped make that famous. But what I like what Zina did was she took her debt snowball and then turned it into a savings snowball as soon as she was done with the debt. So she kept that momentum from the savings. I think she said she was saving just 6% toward her retirement while she was paying down the debt, which I think is smart to get the employer match and keep that going. But then once she paid off the debt, she bumped that up to 10% and started taking the excess that she now had from her debt freedom to use toward advancing her savings goal. So took the debt snowball and converted it over into a savings snowball. I love that. Number 3, I love how Zina said she was going to focus on financial independence versus retirement. So she really couldn't relate to her parents' traditional version of retirement. So she had found a new value for herself, which was in financial independence, where even before she's 60-something, she would want to have the freedom to work less, travel, and live how she wants. So I love that idea of financial independence versus retirement. Enjoying the podcast so far? If you'd like to support the show, the number 1 thing you can do is to subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast app. I want to improve the show, so please leave a rating. Tell me what you like and how I can improve. Have a question? I'm available by email at pt@ptmoney.com or on Twitter at ptmoney. Thanks for listening to this episode. I'll be back next week with another episode. The show is part of the FinCon Podcast Network and was produced by Steve Stewart.